So we just got the news. Dricus du Plessis is officially out of UFC 317. That's right. Du Plessis has reportedly suffered an injury and has withdrawn from his scheduled fight against Khamzat Chimaev. The fight was still over 2 months away. So for him to pull out this early, that injury had to be pretty serious. Or maybe this was just a smart business decision. Instead of grinding through a full camp while recovering, maybe Dricus just told the UFC, "I can't make this card, but I'll be ready for a later one." And honestly, that might be the best move for everyone, including Ilia, Jon Jones, and even Arman Tsarukyan. Because Dricus pulling out just opened up the door for some massive opportunities. Jon Jones already had the keys to save UFC 317. But now, Ilia and Arman might have picked theirs up too. Khamzat wants to stay on the card. No surprise there. He's talking about fighting someone else, maybe for an interim title. And out of nowhere, we've got Kio Borralho, ranked number 6, stepping up and saying he's ready to go. He and Khamzat are former teammates, and according to Kio, Khamzat is down to fight him. That's interesting. Friendly, familiar, and very possible. But here's the thing, UFC 317 isn't just any pay-per-view. This is International Fight Week. This card needs to deliver, and right now, things are shaky. The upcoming Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena card isn't exactly star-studded, and the Morab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov card after that, even weaker. The UFC cannot afford 3 lackluster pay-per-views in a row. So, UFC 317 needs to be a home run. Could Khamzat, as a main event, carry the card? Possibly. He's a major star, one of the biggest in the company. But he's never headlined a pay-per-view before. So, if they put him in the main event for an interim title against Borralho, would that be enough for International Fight Week? Realistically, Khamzat shouldn't be fighting Kio. He should be fighting Nassourdine Imavov. Imavov's ranked higher. Just knocked out at Desanya, and stylistically, it's a much more meaningful matchup. Borralho's best win is Jared Cannonier. Good fighter, no doubt, but rankings matter. And Khamzat versus Imavov would be a legitimate one contender bout, with real stakes until Dricus returns. But forget all that for a second. There's a much bigger fight that could headline UFC 317. Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. Ilia's been calling for this fight. And now, with a main event slot open and a pay-per-view to save, it makes perfect sense. Islam versus Ilia is huge. 2 champions, 2 finishers, 2 rising superstars. Put them on the same card as Khamzat. That's a blockbuster. That's a card the UFC can use to negotiate with new broadcast partners. Whether it's Netflix, ESPN, or Fox, when Dana White walks into those meetings, he wants to say, we've got Islam versus Ilia. We've got Khamzat Chimaev. We've got John Jones. And speaking of John Jones, that's the other wild card. John versus Tom Aspinall for the undisputed heavyweight title. That's the biggest fight the UFC can possibly make right now. It's John's retirement bout, Tom's coronation shot. But there's one massive hurdle: $30 million. That's what John reportedly wants. And honestly, if the UFC is serious about selling 1 million pay-per-view buys, they'll give him that. John knows how big this card could be. He knows what the UFC is trying to do with new networks. And that $30 million might just be part of the negotiation. Game. So let's play out two possible scenarios. Scenario 1, the UFC goes big. John Jones versus Tom Aspinall headlines. Khamzat versus Imavov is the co-main. Add Islam versus Ilia, and now you've got a guaranteed million by card. No question. That's a legacy event. Scenario 2, John doesn't fight. They go with Islam versus Ilia as the headliner. Khamzat versus Boralho as the co-main. That's still a strong card. Not quite 1 million buys, but still massive, especially if they add more firepower. And one way to boost it even more: run back Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira. Their first fight was a banger, but it wasn't 5 rounds. This one should be. And now that Charles has improved his wrestling and overall fight IQ, that matchup is closer than ever. But Arman's been grinding too. He's rolling from camp to camp and could be sharper than ever. The first takedown will say a lot if Charles sprawls, defends it clean, and starts chipping away with front kicks and long jabs. Arman's going to have to explode with big overhands. That's when the chaos starts. This fight could be fireworks from the opening bell. Then you throw in Cyril Gane versus Jailton Almeida, striker versus grappler showdown. Cyril will try to bounce and strike, while Almeida relentlessly shoots for the takedown, trying to press him against the cage and wear him down. It's a fascinating chess match. Has Cyril's grappling improved enough? Can he survive Jailton's chain wrestling? We're going to find out. Add Alexander Pantoja, Kai Kara-France to round out the main card, and you've got a 9.5 out of 10 event. Why not a full 10? Because, again, Khamzat should be fighting Imavov. Now, if Ilia does beat Islam, the winner of Charles versus Armang could fight him later this year, setting up the next big title matchup. Everything lines up. Lightweight is thriving. And as for the rest of the division, if Justin Gaethje beats Dan Hooker, maybe he fights Paddy Pimblett next in a no-one contender eliminator. Meanwhile, Islam could move up to welterweight if he beats Ilia and maybe hold both belts like a real double champ. Whether he defends both regularly or not, that's a different story. But either way, it gives the UFC a lot of options. So, what do you think? Will UFC 317 be saved by Jon Jones? Or will Islam and Ilia step up and headline the biggest card of the summer? Should Khamzat fight Boralho or Imavov? And who would you rather, Sjarman or Ilia fighting for the lightweight title? Let me know in the comments. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.